Good morning, my YouTube viewers. In this video, what we're going to do is we're going to talk about cluster sampling. And so in cluster sampling, the population is divided into clusters and a random sample of clusters is selected. So what we're going to do is we're going to do cluster sampling in Python. So in order to get the program to execute, what we have to do is we have to import the libraries that we're going to need. So we're going to import NumPy as NP, which is the numeric library, and then we're going to import pandas as PD, which is creates the data frames and processes the data. So what we're going to do is we're going to create the sample data. So with the sample data that we're going to create, the first row, or the first column, is going to be the cluster, and the second column is going to be the value. And you're going to have cluster 1 times 5, plus cluster 2 times 5, plus cluster 3 times 5. So that's going to give you 15 elements. And in the value, you have 1 to 15 as elements. And then after you have defined your data, then what you're going to do is you're going to create a data frame from the data. And then what we're going to do is we're going to define a function to perform cluster sampling. So def cluster sampling is going to take the data frame, the cluster column, and the number of clusters as arguments. And so you're going to get the clusters. So unique clusters equals df column cluster dot unique. And we already know that there are 3 unique clusters because I already said that. And then we're going to randomly select the clusters. Selected clusters equals np.random.choice brackets unique clusters, comma, num clusters, comma, replace equals false. And then we're going to get the sample by selecting all data from these selected clusters. So sample df equals df cluster column dot is in bracket selected clusters, and then you're going to return the sample df. So you're going to define the cluster column and number of clusters to the sample. So cluster column equals cluster and num clusters equals 2. So that means it's going to select 2 clusters. Perform cluster sampling. Sample df equals cluster sampling brackets df cluster column, comma, num clusters, and you're going to display the sample data, and you're going to print cluster sample, and then you're going to print the sample df, or the sample data frame. So basically there's 3 clusters, but you're going to select 2 clusters out of the 3 clusters. So you're going to select it was randomly selected cluster 2 and cluster 3, and then it gives you the values of that. And so that concludes how to do cluster sampling in Python. So in the next video, we're going to be talking about convenient sampling, which is another sampling method.